Picture this. It is Tuesday morning. The alarm on your phone goes off.
Oh, awful sound.
Right, that generic, jarring chime that you've just come to completely despise.
Absolutely the worst.
Yeah. So you open your eyes and, I mean, before your feet have even touched the cold floor of your bedroom, before you've even consciously registered what day it actually is, this heavy, suffocating wave of dread just washes completely over you.
It's a very physical sensation.
It really is. It sits right there on your chest, like heavy as lead. And instantly your brain just boots up. But it doesn't boot up with excitement for the day, you know?
No, definitely not.
No, it immediately starts printing out this receipt of anxieties. It generates this massive, overwhelming to-do list. The bills you haven't paid, that awkward email you've been putting off for 3 days.
The laundry piling up in the corner.
Yes! The fact that you haven't been to the gym in like a month. And beneath all of that, beneath the specific items on the list, there's this humming, low-level, pervasive feeling that you are somehow just fundamentally behind in life.
Like everyone else got an instruction manual at birth that you somehow missed out on.
Exactly.
The sheer inertia of that moment is profound. It's almost paralyzing, honestly. And what is truly striking about that specific Tuesday morning moment is the automatic nature of it.
What do you mean by automatic?
Well, think about it. You haven't actually experienced anything negative in the physical world yet. You've simply woken up. The room is quiet.
Right.
The temperature is fine. You are completely safe in your bed, yet your internal environment is already this active battlefield. The alarm goes off, and the war for your energy has already begun before you've even had a chance to sit up and, take a sip of coffee.
Wow, yeah. We carry this dark, heavy cloud with us right into the bathroom. You flip on that harsh fluorescent light, you look in the mirror, and what's the very first thing that happens?
You start judging.
Exactly. You don't see your eyes. You don't see a person who is genuinely trying their best to navigate a really complex world. You immediately, almost magnetically, zero in on a flaw.
A new wrinkle. A blemish.
A look of profound exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You check your bank account on your phone while you're brushing your teeth, and you feel this actual, literal, physical knot form right in the pit of your stomach.
Tightness that just radiates outward.
Right. So we are walking around carrying this immense atmospheric pressure of lack and frustration. And here is the core conflict, the absolutely maddening part of this whole situation. You are trying so incredibly hard to fix it.
People really are trying.
They are. You're putting in the effort, you're working overtime, you're trying to force a positive attitude, you're attempting to eat healthier, be better. You're out there every single day with like a bottle of super glue, desperately trying to piece together the broken shards of your reality.
But nothing moves.
Yeah.
The needle does not budge.
It doesn't budge. Why does it feel like there is an invisible magnetic force constantly pulling you back into the mud of frustration and lack and just total exhaustion?
It's the ultimate question.
So let's unpack this today. Our mission for this conversation is to completely deconstruct that invisible force. We are going to uncover the hidden mechanics of why we stay stuck.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Same here. To do this, our exploration takes us through a fascinating stack of anonymous esoteric texts, quantum psychology journals, and some really interesting somatic therapy research notes. We're going to pull the most vital insights from these materials to outline a radical, entirely new paradigm.
The totally new way of understanding how our internal world creates our external reality.
Exactly. And I'm thrilled we're starting exactly here, right in the thick of that morning dread. Because it validates a frustration that nearly everyone experiences, but, rarely understands on a mechanical level.
Yeah, we're exhausted because our typical approach to solving our life's problems is fundamentally backward. We are treating the symptoms rather than the root cause.
Like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Or trying to rearrange the furniture in a burning house and wondering why it's still getting hot in the room. What's fascinating here is that the materials we're examining today propose something that, well, it sounds akin to science fiction at first glance.
It really does.
But it's actually rooted in a very profound understanding of energy, frequency, and consciousness. The core premise we need to confront is this: those negative thoughts dragging you down, that inner voice telling you that you're behind, that you're failing, that you aren't enough.
Yeah.
Those thoughts might not even belong to you.
Wow.
And that physical reality you're fighting so desperately to change. The empty bank account, the stressful job, it's nothing more than an outdated shadow. It's a leftover projection of past energy.
Okay, so to solve the mystery of this daily dread, To figure out why Tuesday morning feels like a punishment instead of an opportunity, we first have to investigate these silent invaders that are currently living rent-free inside our minds.
We do. We need to talk about the concept of thought forms.
And this is where things get pretty wild.
Yeah, it requires us to ask you, the listener, to momentarily suspend your conventional, highly materialistic understanding of how the mind and the universe work.
Right, throw out the old textbook for a second.
Exactly. When we use the term thought forms, based on these texts, we are talking about independent, energetic entities. They are born from both collective and individual focus.
Okay, wait, walk me through the mechanics of that.
Think about it like this. When a specific thought, emotion, or idea is focused on intensely and repeatedly, it generates a measurable energetic footprint. It takes on a life of its own on a mental plane of existence.
The mental plane?
Yes. Now, this mental plane is invisible to our 5 physical senses. You can't touch a thought form, you can't weigh it on a scale, you can't trap it in a glass jar.
Right, of course not.
But according to the cross-reference materials we're analyzing today, it is entirely objectively real. It operates right alongside our physical dimension, interacting with it constantly.
That framing immediately challenges our inherent bias towards solid matter, doesn't it? Like we walk around, we knock on a wooden table, we stub our toe on a door frame, and we think, well, this is reality.
This is all there is.
Exactly. We think reality is just 100% solid physical stuff, and everything else is just, imagination. But if you look at basic quantum physics, it shatters that illusion completely.
It really does.
Physics shows us that what we perceive as solid matter is actually 99.999% empty space. It's just vibrating energy fields held together by forces we barely even comprehend.
It's mostly nothingness, but from a physical standpoint.
Right. So if almost the entire universe is invisible space and energy, it's not a huge leap to understand that thoughts aren't just fleeting, meaningless clouds of nothingness firing off in our synapses.
No, thoughts are literally things. They are structures. They have mass and momentum in that invisible 99.9%.
They possess actual substance within their specific bandwidth of frequency.
And because they are energetic structures that have gained a kind of rudimentary autonomy through repeated focus, they develop a singular driving imperative.
Which is what?
They want to survive. They need to maintain their energetic architecture. And to survive, like any organism or system in nature, they require a food source. They require energy to sustain their structure.
Okay, and what kind of energy are we talking about here?
The exact same frequency of energy that birthed them in the first place.
And where do they source this specific energy?
From us, from our attention, our emotional reactions, our consciousness. They are, by their very definition and function, parasitic.
Parasitic. Man. Let's really sit with the weight of that word for a second. Why are these invisible entities bothering you on a Tuesday morning? Why the sudden wave of dread?
Because they're hungry.
Because they're hungry. But you made an important distinction before we started recording today, and I want to make sure we highlight it. These things aren't necessarily like evil villains twirling their mustaches trying to destroy humanity.
No, not at all. It's crucial not to anthropomorphize them with malevolent intent. We shouldn't think of them as demons out to ruin our lives on purpose. Look at the mechanics of nature.
Like a bug.
Exactly. Look at a tick, a tapeworm, or a mosquito in the physical world. A mosquito isn't evil. It doesn't hold a personal grudge against you.
Even though it feels like it sometimes.
Right. It feels personal, but it's simply functioning according to its biological nature. It's programmed to survive, and it requires your blood to do so. It has no concept of the harm, the itch, or the disease it might cause you. It's just executing its biological survival protocol.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thought forms operate on the exact same principle, just on an energetic quantum level, rather than a strictly biological one.
So if they are negative thought forms, forms born of anxiety, lack, or anger, maybe generated by years of worrying about money or stressing over a job, they require the resonant energy of anxiety, lack, and anger to sustain themselves.
Correct. They feed on those specific low-frequency emotional states.
So their entire strategy, their whole operational game plan is to extract your energy. And to successfully do that, they have to drop your frequency down into those lower emotional states.
They need you to feel fear.
They need you to feel guilt, apathy, shame, or anger. Because if you're feeling joy, peace, profound gratitude, or even just like deep neutrality, your frequency is vibrating at a rate they literally cannot digest.
It's totally incompatible with their structure.
Yeah, you become invisible to them, or at least completely inaccessible as a food source.
They have a highly specific resonant frequency they can feed on. If you are vibrating above it, they starve. Therefore, their fundamental imperative is to pull your consciousness down into their feeding zone. They are mechanisms of drag.
It makes me think of an analogy to understand how this hacking process works.
Oh, let's hear it.
Imagine your brain is a high-end car stereo receiver, right? And you're trying to cruise down the highway of your life, listening to upbeat, driving, high-frequency music. You want to feel good.
Makes sense.
But there is this shady, unauthorized pirate radio station operating somewhere nearby. They're actively hacking into your car's receiver, overriding your pure signal, and suddenly blasting this incredibly sad, depressing, heavy music through your speakers.
I like that.
They want you to feel so miserable, so overwhelmed, and so exhausted by the noise that you just pull the car over, turn off the engine, sit by the side of the road, and stay stuck in the mud.
And as long as you're sitting there passively listening to their broadcast, letting it dictate your mood, they are siphoning the gas right out of your tank to power their own transmitter.
Wow, yes, exactly.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the dynamics at play. And it brings us to the most dangerous, sophisticated, and insidious weapon these parasitic entities use against us. The texts describe it as the master illusion.
The master illusion. Okay, what is that?
Well, the reason they are so incredibly successful at keeping people stuck in loops of depression and anxiety is that they do not announce themselves as an external pirate radio station. They don't arrive with a warning label or a different voice.
Oh, I see where this is going.
The primary, most effective weapon of a negative thought form is convincing you that it is you. They disguise themselves perfectly as your own internal monologue.
This is the part of the research that honestly gave me chills the first time I read it. It is entirely mind-bending.
It's unsettling.
It is. They mimic your internal voice so perfectly, with the exact same tone and cadence that you don't even think to question it. They have access to your memory banks, they know your deepest, darkest insecurities, and they know exactly which emotional buttons to press.
And they press them with such surgical precision that you just automatically assume, well, I guess I'm just a negative person. I guess I am just an anxious person.
Life is just hard for me. This is just who I am.
Right. That assumption of identity is the ultimate trap. It relies entirely on your ignorance of their existence.
Because if you knew they were there, you'd fight back.
Exactly. Think about it. If a physical parasite inside your digestive tract wants to survive, its absolute best strategy is to remain undetected by the host. The moment you realize you have a tapeworm, what do?
You take medicine. You get rid of it.
You take targeted medicine, you change your diet, you take action to flush it out of your system. These energetic parasites operate using the exact same stealth mechanics. They veil themselves in the familiar rhythm of your own thinking.
So when that sudden thought arises, you are going to fail this presentation today. You always mess these things up. Remember what happened 3 years ago? They desperately need you to identify with it.
They need you to say, yes, I am going to fail. Because the very moment you accept that thought as your own generated reality, your body responds. You generate the corresponding biological and energetic emotion of fear or anxiety.
The cortisol spikes.
Your heart rate changes, and boom, the energetic feeding trough is open. You've just served them breakfast.
Okay, hold on. I need to stop and really challenge this, because this is a massive paradigm shift for anyone listening, and it borders on sounding like we are absolving people of all personal responsibility.
I understand why it might sound that way at first.
Are you seriously telling me that if I'm sitting at my desk, genuinely evaluating a project, and I have a thought that says, I am absolutely not good enough for this promotion, my skills aren't there, I'm a fraud, that is not my own brain organically analyzing the situation based on facts?
It's a fair question.
It's not my own logical assessment. You're saying that specific, highly contextual thought is literally an energetic parasite whispering in my ear. How do we differentiate between a valid self-critique and an energetic parasite?
That is the essential question, and it's vital we distinguish between the two. The texts do not suggest that all thought is parasitic. Logical deduction, creative problem solving, and genuine constructive self-reflection are functions of your higher awareness.
Okay, so I still have my own thoughts.
Yes. But when we are dealing with sudden, uninvited, repetitive, self-deprecating thoughts that lower your frequency and offer no constructive solution, yes, the materials argue those are parasitic intrusions.
Wow.
We have to clearly define who the you actually is in this scenario. The true you, the core of your being, the ultimate conscious observer behind the mind, is, according to these quantum concepts, an infinite creator.
A spark of pure neutral awareness.
Exactly. That true self does not organically generate thoughts of limitation, self-hatred, or paralyzing fear. It simply observes and creates. So when that specific destructive thought arrives out of nowhere, it is essentially a beggar arriving at the front door of your consciousness.
But it's wearing a hyper-realistic mask of your own face.
Yes, it knocks on the door, sounding exactly like you, using your memories as leverage, asking for an energetic handout.
A beggar wearing a mask of your own face. That is a terrifying and brilliant image. So because it looks like me and sounds exactly like me, I open the door.
You invite it in.
I invite it into the living room of my mind. I offer it a cup of tea. I ask it to sit down on the couch. And I sit there entertaining it. I start agreeing with it. You know what? You're right. Masked beggar that looks like me. I am a fraud. I shouldn't even try.
And the whole time you're agreeing with it, feeling miserable, it is just stealing the silverware, draining your energy, and getting stronger.
Man, that's bleak.
And the most tragic part of this dynamic is that we actively defend these thoughts. We argue for our own limitations.
Oh, we do. When a friend tries to encourage us, we say, no, you don't understand the reality of my situation. I really am terrible at public speaking. Let me list the 5 times I failed.
Right. We provide the external evidence for the parasite, solidifying its grip on our reality and our nervous system. We do the heavy lifting for them.
We're doing their job for them. So if these invisible invaders are constantly knocking, constantly trying to hack the pirate radio station, constantly wearing masks of our own faces, how do we stop them from getting inside and ruining the furniture?
We need a strategy.
Right. Awareness is great, but we clearly need a robust defensive playbook. We need to take our mental territory back. How do we build a firewall?
Awareness is indeed only the foundational first step. The realization that I am not my thoughts creates a tiny gap. But awareness alone is rarely enough to stop a relentless, deeply entrenched habitual pattern.
So what's the first move?
The research materials outline a highly effective proactive defense, and the first strategic tool involves actively creating a powerful counterforce within your own mental architecture. The text refers to this as establishing the bouncer of the mind.
I love this concept so much because it's so visual and, actionable.
It's very practical.
So you need to literally visualize a strict, imposing, uncompromising guard standing right at the gateway to your mind sanctuary. Imagine you are the owner of the most exclusive, high-end, beautiful VIP venue in the city, and that is your mind.
Your mind is the club.
Right. You cannot just leave the front doors wide open for anyone off the street to wander in and start breaking bottles. You need a massive bouncer working the velvet rope.
And the underlying mechanics of why this visualization works are fascinating from an energetic standpoint. By consciously and repeatedly intending to filter your thoughts, by giving intense daily mental focus to the idea of a protector standing at the gate, you are actually generating a powerful positive thought form.
Oh, wait, you're using their own mechanics against them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are using the exact same quantum mechanics that create the negative parasites, but you are using them intentionally with agency to create an energetic ally.
That's brilliant.
You are actively training your conscious awareness to insert a micro pause before identifying with any incoming shot. You're creating a buffer zone where you can evaluate the data and say, hold on a second, let's look at this thought. Does this thought match our desired frequency?
Does this thought serve our ultimate goal of health, wealth, or peace? No. Then kick it out. You are not on a list. You don't get past the rope.
It is the ultimate mental velvet rope.
And it brings to mind another incredibly vivid analogy from our research. Think of your daily mental intake, the sheer volume of thoughts you process, like sitting at an endless all-you-can-eat buffet.
The buffet analogy is so telling.
You're sitting at a table, and the universe, or these various thought forms floating around the collective consciousness, are acting like waiters. They just keep bringing over plates of food and setting them down on your table one after another.
Endlessly.
Endlessly. Now, some of these plates have fresh, vibrant, nourishing fruit. But some of these waiters keep bringing over plates of rotten, decaying, disgusting, toxic food. That rotten food represents these negative, fear-based thought forms.
And the profound tragedy of the human condition is how the vast majority of people interact with that buffet.
Yes. Most people just blindly, automatically eat whatever is put in front of them without even looking at it.
They don't even check the plate.
No. The waiter drops a plate of rotten garbage. A thought like, you are a total failure, nobody likes you, and you will end up completely broke. And people just automatically pick up their fork, start eating it, and then complain bitterly to anyone who will listen about how terrible it tastes.
They cry about how awful their life is, how sick their stomach feels, while actively continuing to chew on the garbage.
Exactly. But the radical realization here, the true shift in power, is realizing that you have the absolute authority to look at the waiter and say, no, thank you, I didn't order this, I'm not eating that, take it away immediately, I'll take the fresh fruit instead.
It represents a total reclamation of personal sovereignty. You are fundamentally not obligated to consume every thought that is presented to your consciousness.
Right.
But this introduces a critical operational challenge. How does the bouncer actually know what to reject? If the negative thought forms are so incredibly skilled at disguising themselves as your own voice, sounding perfectly logical and pragmatic, how do you spot the rotten food before you accidentally take a bite?
Right, because they don't always show up screaming, I'm a demon of terror. Sometimes they dress up the garbage to look like a gourmet meal. It sounds like practical financial planning or being realistic about the market, but it's actually just crippling, paralyzing anxiety in a tuxedo. How does the bouncer tell the difference?
This is where we must rely on the built-in, foolproof alarm system that every single human being possesses,
Which,
your emotional guidance system, which, sadly, we have mostly been trained to ignore. Your feelings are the ultimate incorruptible lie detector test. You do not have to analyze every single thought logically, which would be exhausting and paralyzing in its own right.
oh yeah, you'd never get anything done.
Exactly. You just have to tune into and monitor your physical and emotional state. If you suddenly feel a drop in your stomach, if you feel a sudden wave of shame, a hot flash of guilt, or a tight, constricting grip of fear in your chest, the alarms are flashing brilliant red.
A thought form has slipped past the gates. You have started chewing on the rotten food.
The body knows before the intellect does.
The feeling is the feedback. If it feels bad in your body, it is a bad thought for you to consume. It really is that simple.
It is.
But wait, let's step out of the theoretical for a moment. What if I am already deep in an anxiety spiral? Let's say it's Tuesday afternoon now. I have eaten the bad food, the bouncer fell asleep on the job, the velvet rope has been trampled, and the parasites are currently throwing a massive, destructive frat party in my mind.
A very common occurrence, unfortunately.
Right. The alarms aren't just flashing, they are blaring deafeningly, saying, just rely on your bouncer or just choose a better thought feels insulting and completely impossible when you're in the middle of a full-blown panic attack. What is the tactical move in the heat of that overwhelming moment?
That is a highly realistic scenario and a vital distinction to make. When the energetic momentum of a negative thought form becomes that strong, it creates a deeply entrenched neural groove in the brain and an intense biological cascade in the body.
It's physical at that point.
Exactly. It's like a massive freight train speeding down a track. You can't just stand in front of it and hold up your hand, hoping your new positive thought will stop it. The logical prefrontal cortex of the mind is compromised. You are in the amygdala, in a survival state.
So what do?
The materials reveal a strategy that sounds completely bizarre at first, but is neurologically and energetically brilliant. Tactical interruptions. Spontaneous, ridiculous, nonsensical physical action.
I found this section of the notes so wild, but so practical.
It works.
When you're trapped in that negative loop, the advice is to do something completely erratic. If you're sitting at your desk spiraling out of control about an impending email, do not try to logic your way out of it. Stand up right there in your office and do a wild, uncoordinated, flailing dance for 10 seconds.
Yes.
Pick up the heavy textbook on your desk and try reading it upside down and out loud in a funny accent. Go to the bathroom and splash freezing cold water on your face while making a ridiculous loud noise.
The underlying psychology and the energy mechanics behind this are deeply intertwined. Negative thought forms, much like neurological anxiety loops, rely heavily on predictable linear patterns.
They need a track to run on.
Precisely. They follow a very specific algorithm to extract energy, trigger the core insecurity, induce the physical sensation of anxiety, generate the corresponding negative thoughts validating the anxiety, and finally, extract the resulting low-frequency energy. It is a rigid, step-by-step sequence.
So by dancing, you're breaking the sequence.
When you suddenly act completely out of character, when you do a bizarre dance in the middle of an anxiety spiral, you violently shatter that linear track. You disrupt the pattern so abruptly that the thought form is essentially dazed.
It doesn't know what to do with that.
It loses its grip because it cannot comprehend, and more importantly, it cannot feed on, the frequency of spontaneous absurdity. You have shifted the energetic channel so fast it creates a disconnect.
This instantly makes me think of that incredibly famous pop culture moment, and I know we are keeping things broad and anonymous today, but everyone listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. From a certain wildly popular wizarding fantasy series.
Eyes.
The young students are facing a creature, a magical shapeshifter, that literally reads their minds and takes the physical form of their absolute deepest, darkest fear. If you fear snakes, it becomes a giant snake.
Right.
And the only way they are taught to defeat this terrifying creature is not by fighting it with a sword, not by blocking it with a shield, and not by running away. They have to point their wand and cast a spell that forcefully transforms the creature into a ridiculous, laughably funny scenario.
They take a terrifying giant spider and put it on roller skates.
Yes, making it slip and slide around the room.
It's a perfect parallel. The author of that series, intentionally or not, tapped into a profound psychological and energetic truth. The mechanism at play there is exactly what our research describes.
How so?
The sudden, forced shift in emotional state moving instantly from paralyzing fear to spontaneous humor or absurdity changes your internal frequency so drastically and so quickly that the entity of fear can no longer resonate with you.
The spider on roller skates breaks the algorithm of terror.
Exactly. The entity loses its power source and collapses. It cannot grip onto your consciousness when you are vibrating at a frequency of ridiculousness or amusement. Fear requires seriousness and gravity to survive.
It's exactly like changing the radio station so fast the pirate broadcaster blows a fuse. I love that. But let's be real. Let's look at the physical toll of this.
The body holds on to a lot of it.
It really does. Sometimes the mental defense, the bouncer, and even the ridiculous dancing isn't quite enough to fully clear the slate. Sometimes the negative energy has already bypassed the mind and gotten deeply physically trapped in the biological tissue of the body.
The physical symptoms of anxiety.
Right. The anxiety isn't just a thought loop anymore. It's a tight chest, shallow, rapid breathing, a racing heart, a knot in the gut. The cortisol is already pumping. We need a physical reset before we can even begin to rebuild our mental reality. You can't just think your way out of a physiological stress response.
Which brings us to a crucial, highly tactical phase of this process. We have to address the mechanics of the mind-body connection.
Okay, let's get into the somatic tools.
When thought forms successfully hijack your frequency and trigger that biological cascade, it is not just a mental or chemical event. According to the somatic and energetic research in our stack, it manifests physically as a block, or what is termed a reversal, in your body's energy meridians.
So your internal bioelectrical system essentially goes offline.
The current is disrupted, starts flowing backward or pooling in certain areas. And when your physical energetic hardware is malfunctioning, you are infinitely more susceptible to further negative mental software taking hold.
You're stuck in a feedback loop between a panicked mind and a blocked body. So we have to reboot the hardware. We have to physically clear the pathways. And our research materials provide two highly specific, highly tactical somatic tools, meaning tools relating to the physical body and its nervous system, to manually clear these blocks. Let's walk through them because the mechanics of how they work are fascinating.
The first is what the texts refer to as the karate chop method.
Okay, what's the karate chop method?
This specific technique draws on principles very similar to traditional acupressure. The physical action is deceptively simple. You take the fingers of one hand and you physically tap the side of your other hand.
Specifically the meaty part, right?
Yes, right below the pinky finger. The exact part of the hand you would use if you were going to do a karate chop on a wood or board. You tap that spot rhythmically with moderate pressure about 20 times while consciously and deliberately repeating a specific reset phrase.
The phrases described in the notes are very mechanical, almost devoid of emotion. It's like you're programming a computer. You say aloud, "I am testing correctly," or "my energy is flowing correctly," and you repeat this while doing the physical tapping on the side of the hand.
That's the process.
Let's get into the why. Why does this specific combination of tapping and speaking work? What is actually happening under the hood, bioelectrically speaking?
You are combining the physical stimulation of a major meridian endpoint with conscious, directed intention. When you physically tap on that specific part of the hand, you are sending a kinetic piezoelectric pulse through the connected tissue and the disrupted bioelectrical energy pathway.
It's like jarring the energetic block loose through physical vibration.
Essentially, yes. The spoken phrase simultaneously provides the new operational directive for that energy. It's akin to manually walking over to a breaker box and forcefully flipping a tripped circuit breaker back to the on position.
Okay, I can visualize that.
By manually clearing that meridian block through vibration and intention, your overall frequency immediately raises. The negative thought form, which fundamentally requires that low, blocked, stagnant energy to maintain its grip, instantly loses its point of attachment.
It just falls off you.
It falls off. It is like a leech that has suddenly been exposed to salt. The environment becomes entirely inhospitable, and it detaches.
Like shaking a leech off your leg, that is such a visceral, almost gross image. But having tried this, that is exactly what it feels like when the anxiety suddenly breaks. You feel a literal physical release.
It's very potent. Now, the second somatic tool mentioned in the stack is aimed at the center of the chest, specifically what they call the tender spot.
Yes, the tender spot. Where exactly is that?
The location of the spot is on the upper chest, typically found a few inches below the collarbone on either side of the sternum. It's referred to as the tender spot because it is a major lymphatic drainage point, and it genuinely often feels physically sensitive or sore to the touch.
Especially when we've been harboring deep emotional distress or prolonged anxiety.
Exactly. The somatic technique here is to press into this spot and rub it firmly but gently in a continuous clockwise direction.
But again, the physical mechanism is only half the equation. The key here isn't just the rubbing, it's the highly specific acknowledgement phrase you use while doing it. You do not try to ignore the bad feeling. You don't paste a fake smile over it.
No, resistance just feeds it.
Right. You rub the spot to stimulate the vagus nerve and the lymphatic system, and you say out loud, even though I am feeling this intense anxiety or whatever the specific emotion is, maybe anger or profound sadness, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself.
The phrasing of that statement is a masterclass in energetic neutralization. It is brilliant. You are not fighting the thought form or the feeling.
Because fighting it creates friction.
And friction generates the exact low-frequency energy the parasite feeds on. By explicitly acknowledging its presence, even though I am feeling this intense anxiety, you completely diffuse the internal resistance. You drop the rope in the tug-of-war.
Oh, I like that. Dropping the rope.
And then, in the very same breath, you immediately flood the entire biological and energetic system with the absolute highest possible frequency. Unconditional self-love and radical acceptance.
That specific combination of physical soothing, vagal nerve stimulation, and high-frequency self-acceptance is incredibly hostile to a parasitic thought form.
It literally cannot survive in an internal environment defined by profound self-love. It dissolves.
It's like taking a glass that is filled with dark, muddy water, and instead of trying to scoop the mud out, you just put the glass under a faucet and turn on the pure, clean, high-pressure water. You just keep pouring the clean water in until the mud is entirely flushed out over the brim.
That's exactly it.
And speaking of pure, clean shocks to the physical system, there is one more physical tool mentioned in the text that is intense, borderline aggressive, but apparently incredibly effective for breaking deep loops. The cold plunge.
Cold therapy. The sudden, intense application of cold, whether it's submerging yourself in a full ice bath, taking a freezing cold shower, or even just aggressively splashing ice water on your face and neck.
This goes far beyond just a gentle physical reset.
It does. It is a massive, system-wide, biological and energetic shock.
The materials say this creates a specific kind of charge around the body that makes it impossible for negative thought forms to cling to you. It's like your entire biofield suddenly becomes an electrified fence. They just get zapped and thrown off. How does cold water do that?
From a purely biological standpoint, you are forcing the autonomic nervous system to perform a hard reboot. When you subject the body to sudden, extreme cold, you trigger an ancient survival mechanism known as the mammalian dive reflex.
Okay, what does that do?
It floods the body with adrenaline and noradrenaline, drastically altering your blood flow, pushing blood to the core to protect the organs, and forcing a massive change in oxygen intake. You are forcefully snapping your consciousness out of the mental loop and violently back into the immediate physical present moment.
Right, because you can't be thinking about tomorrow when you're freezing.
Exactly. Remember, a thought form relies entirely on you being lost in regrets about the past or anxious projections about the future. When you are submerged in 39-degree ice water, there is absolutely no past. There is no future. You cannot worry about your electric bill.
There is only the intense, immediate screaming sensation of the present moment.
Energetically speaking, this sudden physiological spike flushes what esoteric texts call the auric field, which we can understand scientifically as the electromagnetic field generated by the heart and nervous system. It clears the static, leaving you in a highly charged, highly coherent state.
Okay, so let's synthesize where we are on this journey because we've covered a lot of tactical ground. We have recognized that the Tuesday morning dread is not a fundamental truth about who we are. It is the work of silent parasitic thought forms feeding on our energy.
We've identified the invaders.
We have posted the bouncer at the VIP gate of our mind to check IDs. We have stopped blindly eating the rotten food at the buffet. We have danced like absolute lunatics in our office to break the mental pattern, and we have karate chopped our hands and cold plunged our bodies to reboot our physical hardware.
The invaders have been kicked out. We are now standing in a completely clean, empty, brightly lit room. We have successfully stopped the bleeding.
But as the texts point out, being empty isn't the final goal. Nature abhors a vacuum. Now we have to ask the biggest question of all. What do we consciously choose to build in this clean room? And this leads us to the ultimate, most profound mechanism of how physical reality is actually formed.
This is where we pivot from a posture of defense to a posture of absolute total creation. The texts we are exploring introduce a paradigm that completely inverts our traditional Newtonian understanding of cause and effect.
How so?
We usually believe that the physical world happens to us and our consciousness reacts to it. These materials propose that consciousness itself is the singular fundamental reality. The physical world is secondary.
Okay, bear with me here.
Imagine your core consciousness as a powerful beam of pure, eternal, undifferentiated light. It is a projector.
A pure, bright light of a projector. Okay, I have that image.
Everything in your physical reality right now, the unpaid bills sitting on your kitchen counter, the text message you are dreading responding to, the physical location you are sitting in, the exact dollar amount in your bank account, even the condition of your physical body. None of it is the actual source of your reality.
So what is it?
It is all a shadow. It is merely the leftover projection, the cast-off reflection of whatever you have previously placed in front of that pure light of your consciousness.
The physical world is just a shadow. Wow. This brings to mind the broken mirror analogy from the text, which I think perfectly illustrates how completely backward we live our daily lives.
It's a very clarifying analogy.
Imagine you wake up, you walk into your bathroom, you look in the mirror, and you do not like the reflection looking back at you. Maybe you have dirt on your face or your hair is a wild mess. What do you do in that situation?
You fix yourself.
Right. You reach up and you touch your own face. You wash your own skin. You fix the actual source of the reflection. You would never, ever take a wet washcloth and try to scrub the glass of the mirror to get the dirt off your reflection's face.
That wouldn't work at all.
If the mirror has a massive crack right down the middle, you don't stand there trying to glue the glass back together, hoping it will fix the actual face you are wearing.
Spending your life trying to clean the mirror while ignoring the face would be the literal definition of insanity.
Wait, I mean, that is the core of the issue, but that is precisely what we do with our lives every single day. We are constantly, obsessively trying to fix the shadows. We are furiously scrubbing the mirror.
We do?
We hate our financial situation, so we aggressively try to manipulate the external circumstances. We stress, we force outcomes, we complain endlessly to our friends about the economy, we try to glue the broken pieces of the external shadow together, we change jobs, we move cities, hoping the new mirror will show a better reflection.
But we never, ever address what we are actively placing in front of the projector light.
And what we place in front of that light is defined by what the materials call the law of knowing, or the law of assumption.
It's critical to understand that this is not about wishing.
Right.
It is not about hoping for a better future. The universe does not respond to hope. Hope implies lack. It responds to what you fundamentally know to be true about yourself and your relationship to the world.
Because the light just projects whatever is there?
The pure light of consciousness is completely neutral. It has no moral judgment. It simply projects whatever energetic stencil you place in front of it. If you walk around with the deep internal knowing, I always struggle with money, life is inherently hard for me, I never get a break, you've essentially cut out a thick paper stencil in the exact shape of the word struggle.
And you hold that up to the light.
You hold that stencil up to the pure light of your consciousness, and the light obediently, perfectly casts a massive, detailed shadow of struggle across your entire physical reality. The physical reality has no choice but to conform to the stencil.
Hold on. I need to jump in here and push back on this because this is the exact point where and I think a massive portion of our listeners, hit a huge, solid wall of resistance. Let's talk about the friction of the real world.
Let's do it.
You're saying, I just need to assume a new truth. I just need to change the stencil. So let's play this out. I stand in my living room, I change my internal knowing, and I declare, I am incredibly rich, I am abundantly wealthy.
Okay.
But then my phone buzzes. I open my banking app and I look at the screen, and I have exactly $5.32 in my checking account. My rent is due in 3 days. I am not rich. The screen, the cold hard data of reality, says I am poor.
It appears that way, yes.
Walking around saying I am a millionaire when the app says $5 doesn't feel like shifting my frequency. It feels like I'm actively lying to myself. It feels delusional. How do we reconcile the physical data with the internal assumption?
That is the most common, the most understandable, and the most difficult hurdle in this entire practice. And the answer requires a deep understanding of the mechanics of space, time, and the delay mechanism of physical density.
The delay mechanism. Okay.
The light of your consciousness changes the absolute instant you change the stencil. The energetic reality shifts immediately at the quantum level. However, the physical world is dense. Matter moves significantly slower than light. It takes time for the dense physical shadows to rearrange themselves to match the new light projection.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, that $5 in your bank account is not an accurate reflection of who you are now. It is a ghost.
A ghost. Let's define that.
It is entirely dead. It is the leftover, lagging momentum of the old stencil you used to hold up to the light. It is the physical echo of a past assumption you held months or years ago.
So it's like starlight. We're seeing a star that might already be dead.
Exactly. The problem, the trap that keeps everyone stuck, is that you look at the ghost, you look at the $5, you get terrified by the ghost, and you immediately drop your new wealth stencil and pick the old struggle stencil back up to defend yourself against the fear.
You react to the shadow.
You validate the ghost with your emotional reaction, which instantly pumps fresh energy into it, giving it life all over again. You must learn to look at your current physical problems, the empty bank account, the difficult relationship, the health flare-up, and say, with absolute unwavering conviction, that is just a ghost of my old frequency. It is dead. It has absolutely no power over my current light.
That is just a ghost. That completely reframes the relationship with the present moment. Instead of fighting reality, you are just waiting for the smoke to clear.
Precisely.
It reminds me of the frequency analogy we discussed in our notes. Imagine a sound wave. Someone is standing next to you playing a high-pitched, awful screeching note on a violin. It's so loud and abrasive that it's literally shattering the glass windows in the room.
And you are standing there crying about the broken glass, trying to tape the shards of glass together while that awful note is still actively playing.
Right. To fix the glass, to truly change the reality of the room, you don't manipulate the shards. You simply reach over and pluck an entirely different string on the instrument. You play a deep, beautiful, harmonious chord.
And the most crucial part of that analogy, the part that requires a leap of faith, is that it is an entirely new timeline. The old, awful, screeching tone doesn't slowly, gradually morph into the beautiful chord. It stops. The old timeline collapses, and a new sound begins instantaneously.
But here is the challenge, bridging the gap between the two strings. There is a delay. You pluck the new, beautiful string, but because of the size of the room, the echo of the screeching note is still bouncing off the walls for a few seconds.
The ghost of the old sound is still in the air.
The shattered glass is still scattered all over the floor. So the ultimate question is, how do we hold this new, beautiful note? How do we maintain our absolute grip on this new reality when the ghosts of our past assumptions keep popping up, pointing at the broken glass on the floor and trying to scare us back into our old frequency of fear?
This is the ultimate test of mastery over one's own reality. It is where philosophy must become practice. And it brings us to the final, most actionable phase of this entire exploration.
Reaches.
We must move from theoretical understanding to full-body embodiment. We have to start actively playing the character in the new timeline, regardless of the props currently on the stage.
I want to ask the listener directly right now, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, what movie are you assuming you're in right now? What character are you actively playing?
Because you are always playing a role, whether you're conscious of it or not.
Are you playing the tragic victim who works hard but can never seem to catch a break? Or are you playing the hero who has already achieved their triumph and is just walking through the final scenes of the movie?
The profound strategy shared in the research is that you cannot approach your desired reality as something you are trying to reach in the distant future. The future does not exist. There is only the eternal now. You must step completely, psychologically and emotionally, into the character of your desired timeline today, right amidst the ghosts of your current unresolved reality.
There is this incredible, highly specific case study from the materials that perfectly illustrates this concept in action. It is the story of a person who successfully utilized these exact laws to manifest winning a massive multi-million-dollar lottery jackpot.
The mechanics of how they achieved this are vital to study because it wasn't about luck. It was about the systematic application of assumption.
Right, they didn't just sit on their couch wishing they would win. They didn't beg the universe to take pity on them. They fundamentally assumed the identity of a lottery millionaire completely. They changed their internal knowing.
But there was a test.
Yes. Here is a part that blows my mind and really tests the theory. They still had to interact with the physical world. They still had to buy tickets. And as they were doing this, they bought 10, maybe 20, 30 losing tickets over a period of time.
And for the average person, buying a losing ticket is cold, hard proof that the universe isn't listening. It's proof that it's not working.
It's a reason to get depressed, to say, I knew this was stupid, I'm just wasting money, to drop the millionaire stencil and pick up the loser stencil. But this person didn't spiral. They didn't react to the physical evidence at all.
Why didn't they spiral? Because they viewed those losing tickets from the perspective of the end state. They were firmly anchored in the consciousness of having already won.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly the shift. They viewed those physical losing tickets as meaningless props in a movie where they already absolutely knew the ending.
It's like rewatching a movie you've already seen.
Yes. If you're watching a movie and you already know for a fact that the hero wins the grand prize at the end of the film, you don't panic when the hero faces a minor setback in the second act. You don't jump out of your seat and scream, "Oh no, all is lost."
You just eat your popcorn, smile, and watch the drama unfold, knowing it's just building tension for the inevitable victory.
This person treated the losing tickets as just a temporary, meaningless plot point in the inevitable story of their wealth. The external reality, the losing ticket, the ghost, meant absolutely nothing to their internal assumption. They refused to let the ghost dictate their frequency.
And maintaining that level of conviction requires more than just mental gymnastics or reciting affirmations in a mirror. It requires deep physical grounding. The materials emphasize a concept we can call physicalizing the faith.
Physicalizing the faith, what does that look like?
Assumption must be paired with physical action in the real, dense, material world to truly anchor the new frequency into your nervous system. It signals to your biology and to the quantum field that you are not just daydreaming. You are actively preparing for the inevitable arrival of the new reality.
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is how you prove to yourself that the stencil has changed. If you're internally assuming the state of someone who has just purchased a brand new, beautiful car, you cannot just sit on the couch and think about the car.
No, you have to act.
You must go out to your garage this weekend, get a broom, clear out the boxes, sweep the floor, and actively make physical room for it. You are preparing the space. You are acting in complete accordance with the knowing. You are moving your physical body in the timeline where the car is already yours.
If you are assuming the reality of meeting the love of your life, you do not sleep in the middle of the bed. You sleep on only one side. You intentionally clear out an entire drawer in your dresser and leave it empty. You are creating the physical, literal vacuum that the new reality must rush in to fill. You are signaling to the field that the partner is a given.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, a bit confrontational for how we usually talk to each other in daily life. The research points out a massive, invisible trap hidden right inside our everyday vocabulary. It is the immense danger of the word but.
Oh, but is the great nullifier of manifestation. It is the erasure of all positive assumption.
Think about how often we use this word to justify our ghosts. I've been trying so hard to get this business off the ground for 5 years, but the market is just too tough right now. I've been doing the meditations, I have been using the bouncer, but my bank account is still empty.
We think we're just explaining our situation, being realistic, giving context to our friends.
Right. But the universe, the pure light of the projector, does not hear context. It does not hear excuses. It only gives you exactly what you claim as your state of being.
When you say, I am trying, but I am failing, you are literally cutting out a stencil that says trying and failing. And the universe says, okay, your wish is my command. Here is a reality where you continue to perpetually try and perpetually fail.
You are manifesting the struggle perfectly. You're succeeding at creating failure.
The universe is entirely literal. It is taking you at your exact word. By using the word but, you are claiming the identity of the trier, the struggler rather than the haver. To shift timelines, to truly change the projection, you have to completely drop the but.
You have to assume the end state completely, without caveats, without waiting for the physical world to give you permission to feel the relief of having it. You must generate the relief
You
first.
cannot wait for the mirror to smile first. You have to stand in front of the glass, smile, and trust that the mirror has no choice but to reflect it back.
So how do we practice this when the grand goals, the millions of dollars, the perfect health, the ideal partner feel too big, and the ghosts feel too scary? We start small. We build the muscle. The materials suggest implementing micro moments of assumption throughout your normal, mundane day.
It is about habituating the nervous system to the frequency of the end state in low-stakes situations.
Yeah.
You build the neural pathways of wealth or health while doing the laundry.
Right. So you are standing in your kitchen on a Wednesday morning, waiting for the coffee machine to finish brewing. Instead of letting your mind default to your stressful commute or the emails you have to send, you consciously pause. You take a breath and you ask yourself, who is drinking this coffee right now?
And you consciously answer, oh, right, I am the person who is abundantly wealthy, completely secure, and deeply loved.
Yes. You generate and hold that specific physical feeling for just 10 seconds while you take a sip. When you are driving your kids to school, gripping the steering wheel, you ask, who is driving this car? This is the person who is radiantly healthy, full of boundless energy, and deeply at peace. You are constantly reinforcing the new character, scene by scene, line by line, overriding the default programming.
You are intentionally overriding the pirate radio station with your own high-frequency broadcast. You are asserting your ultimate sovereignty over your internal environment, which, as we have thoroughly established today, is the absolute engine of your external reality.
We have covered massive paradigm-shifting ground today. We started in that heavy, suffocating Tuesday morning dread, looking at a broken mirror, and we have journeyed all the way to the control room of the universe. And I want to synthesize this for everyone listening because the implications of this are staggering and profoundly empowering.
It really changes everything.
The ultimate takeaway from all these materials is that you are not a victim. You are not a victim of a cruel, random world. You are not a victim of a terrible economy. And you are not a victim of bad luck. And perhaps most importantly, you are not at the mercy of your darkest, most anxious thoughts.
Those thoughts are merely uninvited guests. They are energetic parasites that rely entirely on your compliance and your ignorance to survive. The moment you revoke your consent, they lose their power.
You are an extension of the ultimate creative force of the universe. You are the pure, eternal light of consciousness, currently experiencing a temporary, localized bout of amnesia. You forgot who you were, so you started believing the shadows on the wall were real. You got scared of your own projections. But you are the one holding the flashlight.
And we must remember the most practical truth of all knowledge is only power when it is actively applied. Hearing these concepts might provide a temporary high, a brief moment of intellectual inspiration.
But the real work, the actual shifting of timelines, begins when you turn this audio off.
You now hold the remote control to your internal projector. You understand the defensive mechanics of the bouncer, the absurdity of breaking the pattern, the vital necessity of the physical somatic reset, and the profound, undeniable truth of the reality mirror.
The ghosts of your past, the empty bank accounts, the failed relationships, the old lingering anxieties, they have absolutely no power to dictate your future unless you actively choose to keep feeding them your precious energy.
That's the key.
So as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought to mull over. It builds on everything we've read in the texts, but it takes it one step further into the mystery of how time, quantum physics, and human desire actually work.
Oh, this is a great thought to end on.
Think about that deep, burning desire you have right now, the one you are almost afraid to even admit to yourself because it feels so far away. Maybe it's for profound, soul-shaking love or massive financial success, or simply a deep, unshakable peace of mind that you haven't felt since childhood.
Just sit with that desire for a second.
What if that desire isn't just a random wish? What if it's not just your ego grasping at things it doesn't currently have? What if that burning desire is actually a memory from your future?
Wow.
What if the future version of you, the version who has already achieved the timeline where everything is perfect, the version who has mastered the mirror, is sending that desire backward through the quantum field of time? What if that feeling is just future, you tapping you on the shoulder and calling you forward to simply walk down the path and collect what is already yours?
That changes how you look at what you want.
It really does. Think about that the next time it's Tuesday morning. The next time the alarm goes off and you start to feel that heavy dread creeping in and you walk into the bathroom to look in the mirror. Remember that the machinery of your life isn't broken. You've just been looking at the shadows instead of the light.
Just turn on the light.
Look in that mirror, smile at the ghost of who you used to be, and start playing the new note. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of the mind. Keep your bouncer at the door, and we will talk to you next time.